What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another weekly review, weekly forecast, weekly outlook, and yeah, let's get straight into things. So I'm starting here on the economic calendar. I'm using my FX book, and you can see that we do have high impact news pretty much every day. However, with the US dollar specifically, we only have high impact news on the Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday this week. So we do have CPI. CPI is always good fun, and then on Thursday we have PPI, followed by Friday with some more high impact news. And then on the Wednesday, we also have GBP with some high impact news. So this week, what am I looking at? Well, I'm definitely going to be paying close attention to GBP, especially with the Wednesday, seeing if there's any setups forming, etc. And then in terms of trading, I'm probably going to leave Monday out because there's no high impact on the US dollar, and then look for CPI for potential setups for the rest of the week. I do think Thursday and Friday should have some nice setups. That tends to be how it is. I'm usually stronger on my Thursday and Fridays, I think. But yeah, it should be an interesting week to say the least. So now let's get over to the charts. And I'm going to be starting on dollar monthly. And there's a few things I want to bring our attention to. First, I want to bring our attention to the low of last month. That's right here. And the reason for that is because price may want to retrade into this as we continue lower, if that is what price wants to do. So let me just get this drawn out, written out, and I'm going to put Feb low, just so we know that's the low of February. And then another thing I want to bring our attention to is this order block here from December. And if you look at the midpoint of this, you'll see that we've just traded to the 50% level. So the next level would then be this 25% level in terms of targeting. Now, it's not that simple as in price is going to go here and then here. But once we drop down to the lower time frames, you'll be able to see why I'm delineating these levels. So I'm just going to get them marked out for us. So we have the 25% level right here. 25% of monthly bullish order block. Oh, I always end up doing that. And then we also have the 50% level, sorry, right here, which is also what we call mean thresholds. So let's just get that written out as 50%. And now we have three levels marked on our charts from the monthly. We have this low, which may get referred to, because remember, the high, the low, the open and close of candles are the most sensitive according to ICT, and then the 50% level is also very sensitive, as that's mean threshold. So we want to see our prices acting around this and whether it can help propel us to that 25% level. So let's go down to the weekly now, and you can see that last week we had clear displacement. This was the kind of displacement I needed to see in the markets, especially after all the consolidation we've had running into the new year. This is the kind of displacement I like to see for me to start framing clear direction. So I'm happy to see this. You can see we closed below this low as well, which you can see is February's low, so that's nice to see. And the fact that we closed below it is saying to me that price is likely going to want to continue lower. Another thing I want to look at is this bearish order block right here. We can look at this as a potential reclaimed bearish order block, as in price may want to trade back into this, and if it does, it should treat it the same way it treated it here. So back in December, you can see this is a bearish order block. So so smart money may want to sell back into that if we do get offered it. So let me just get that written out as well as potential reclaimed bearish order block. Now, bearish order reclaimed blocks are very difficult to see and understand completely. But this week, if we do trade into it, I'll be speaking about it a lot, and hopefully you'll grasp an understanding of what I mean by wanting to see price trade back up there. But the idea of price trading back up there is in line with the idea of it trading back into that February low. And once we go to the daily, we'll be able to get a better look at that. Another thing to take note of, we have a nice fair value gap right here. Very clean, very clear. So let's get that drawn out as a target for this week. So let's make this blue, and then we can type in weekly fair value gap. So this week in general, I am expecting a down close week, meaning that I want to see price draw its way towards a weekly fair value gap. So what does that mean? It means I want to see the high get made on either the Monday and Tuesday, preferably with some continuation on Thursday, Friday to the downside. But again, with CPI, PPI and things like that, you know, the week can deliver in very messy ways, and we need to take that into consideration. But at least now that we've had clear displacement to the downside and a break in market structure, once we close below this low, that's a break, we can start looking for shorting opportunities on dollar and longs on the pairs. So let's go down to the daily now, and there are a lot of lines on the screen, don't get me wrong, I can see. So if it does get too messy, I'll simply just clean it up. And here on the daily, now you can see that potential reclaimed bearish order block level, that February low, which we just traded through and closed on a low on Thursday, and that 50% level that we just traded to as well and had a nice reaction off of, which is typical of price. When we hit the 50% level of ranges, that tends to happen very much. And then of course we have the weekly fair value gap. So another thing I want to bring our attention to, this time on the daily, we have relative equal lows here and here. So we can mark that out as sell side liquidity. Very simple level right there. And again, here we have a bullish order block, but because we've delivered on the downside now and traded and closed below it, this should act as a bearish order block. And what does that line up with? That lines up with our potential reclaimed bearish order block and the February low as being a point of selling. So this is going to be a level that I'm going to be taking close consideration of, but I'm not going to have that marked out purely because I don't really want to be looking over here. I'd rather be looking on this sell side. Now on the daily, you can see there's fair value gaps here between Tuesday and Thursday's high, and then a fair value gap here between Wednesday's low and Friday's high. So the fair value gap that I'm going to be watching closely to get traded into to create the high of the week is going to be this fair value gap. So I'm going to make this orange, and I'm just going to write daily fair value gap, and I anticipate price to trade into this. Preferably price does not close it. I don't want to see price necessarily close it completely. Don't get me wrong, we can wick up there, but I want to see price trade into it to offer the high of the week for a potential continuation to the downside. Another thing to consider is that if we look at the midpoint of this, so the middle line, you can see that lines up pretty much nicely with that potential reclaim bearish order block. So basically what I'm saying is that moving into Monday and Tuesday, I want to see, does price trade into here and how does it treat this level? If there's nice resistance, just as anticipated, then we can start looking for shorts on dollar with the expectation to go long on the pairs. Where would we then be short into? Well, like I said, we have that 50% level that we've wicked down already, but you can see there's relative equal lows here between this low and this low. So from here, we can start looking for shorts to start running down to here with the potential reach for that weekly fair value gap. So you can see how displacement's really helping us to frame potential moves for the week. But yeah, generally speaking, I have my close attention on this daily fair value gap. If price overshoots it, then I'll be watching this low up here. Preferably, like I said, price doesn't reach up there, and the reason for that is just because I want to see continued bearishness. I am going to go to the 4 hour, and you can see how price came off that 50% level, kind of just consolidating. Again, Monday may be quiet, but it's not typical. It is typical for price to be active on the Mondays after non-farm payroll, so I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some kind of movement. But generally speaking, again, I want to see us trade into that daily fair value gap to create the high of the week. There is a bearish order block up here as well, so that's another level I'll be paying close attention to if price does manage to reach up there. One thing I did notice on the 1 hour is we do have a nice little swing high right here. This is a bearish order block. However, this is a significant swing high, as in price could use that to sell stops above, as in there's going to be buy side liquidity residing above this high. And again, typical of price, I wouldn't be surprised if we created a swing high to engineer liquidity that would then take later for us to move lower. Now, I can't obviously see that far into the future. Well, I can't see into the future at all, guys. But what I'm saying is that I'm anticipating this high to get traded to before we start looking for shorts. So I'm not thinking about any kind of trading until I see some kind of buy stops taken with the expectation for me to be moving lower in the week. We also have a nice breaker in this range as well. We've got a high, a low, a high, and then price is delivered to the downside. So I'm looking at that last down close candle right here as a potential target as well for the high of the week. So again, I'm going to be watching what time does price trade into this low. Is it, New York kill zone 8:30? If that's the case, probably a nice setup is going to form, and then we can probably watch some nice deliverance to the downside after that. But it is just a matter of waiting and seeing how Monday trades, to be honest. 15 minute, there's not really anything on the 15 minute. You can see we're kind of just consolidation right now, but again, there's that buy side liquidity I was talking about. You can see the breaker set up there, so I wouldn't be surprised to see price trade up here first at the beginning of the week. Let's just bring that to the front. So yeah, that's going to be everything on dollar. I hope that all makes clear sense. And yeah, really I've just got my eyes on this weekly fair value gap, but before that gets traded to, I am watching to see how do we trade up into this level. So I'm going to get rid of some stuff here just to make it a little bit more clean, and I do want to go to the daily real quick. Let me just clean this up real quick. If we go to the daily, and I'm going to take out this midpoint because that's just going to confuse me. This volume imbalance, now we did wick through it, but we still haven't closed below it. So price is still going to use this as a reference point. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this gray, just because I don't want it to, you know, disrupt my chart, so to speak. But the reason I'm still keeping my eyes set on this is because, again, price is going to use this to gyrate as like a buffer. So if we trade higher, you might find that price finds support on this level, and then when we trade lower, we may see a clear down close candle right through it, and then find resistance as a potential setup for a short into the weekly. So I'm going to keep this drawn out just because it's there, and the fact that we've wicked through it, you know, is still significantly relevant to me. So I'm definitely paying close attention to that. So yeah, that's everything on dollar. I hope that makes sense. Now we can go over to GBP USD, and we'll start on the monthly there as well. Now here's GBP USD on the monthly, and then you can see that we're starting to trade up into this long wick here, and I'm looking at this fair value gap mainly. So on the monthly, in terms of targets, I do like the look of this fair value gap up here. Now I'm not saying price is going to reach it this month, especially not this week necessarily, but this is my draw on liquidity for sure, lined up nicely with this bearish order block. Like, this is bearish order block, fair value gap in a premium as well, off a range. Remember, we've got this range from this high to this low, premium. This is you know, classic setup for, you know, long-term position trading, as in once price reaches into here, we can think about shorts. But that's definitely my draw on liquidity. So we can put monthly fair value gap, because I do believe price is going to seek to want to fill that monthly fair value gap. Another thing I want to bring our attention to is this long wick, and yep, you got it right. I'm definitely going to mark out the midpoint, because price is going to see this as a reference point for price as well. So let's get that drawn out. I'm going to make it red, I'm going to make it dashed, and I'm going to write monthly consequent encroachment. And I want to see, can price trade to that? If price does trade to that successfully, I'd then be looking to see how price is acting on the lower time frames to see, okay, are we going to find support? And if we do, then I'd start thinking about these highs here, and this monthly fair value gap to get traded to. But first, and this week more so, specifically this week, I'm looking for this consequent encroachment to get traded to. Another thing I'm looking at is this old low, the high, sorry, from December. Similarly to how I was bringing our attention to that low from February, I'm looking at this high from December. I want to see how price trades in this range. So what I am going to do for now is I am going to draw out this, and I'm going to make it white just to show how price action has traded through it. And then when we drop to the lower time frames, within this range, I know I want to find support, more specifically at the 50% level. So on the lower time frames, I'm going to be looking for PD arrays around this level that price may use to propel price higher. But let's go down to the weekly. And you can see how price traded aggressively higher, closing above this high as well. That's significant. Peaked above this high. And wait, my monthly level isn't being let me see. There we go. Weekly. There. So this is that monthly consequent encroachment that I want to see price work its way up to. And you'll see that there's a high there as well. So this is what I have my eyes set on for the new week. But again, this is that monthly wick I was talking about, right? So as price pulls back into this range, I'd like to think that the low of the week can get made in here. We do have a mitigation block, and what I mean by that is that we have a low. And when I'm explaining this, look at the volume. Don't look at the wicks. Look at the volume. We have a low, we have a high, we have a higher low, and then price is broken to the upside. So I'm looking at this as a mitigation level for price. Now, although I was telling you to look at the volume, I am looking at the wicks as a reference point for price. And you can see that this high with the highest volume close, I hope I'm making sense right now. This candle specifically, I'm looking at the high of this for price to draw down into, which lines up perfectly with the midpoint of that wick. And the reason for that, the reason I'm looking at this candle specifically is because this has got the highest closed. So I don't really care about this wick so much. It's more so this wick's high, and you can see that lines up with the 50% level. So that's what I have my eye set on in terms of sell side for price to trade to, before then trading higher into last week's high, and again working its way into this range and potentially up to this monthly consequent encroachment. We'll go to the daily, and you'll see that high is right here, and you'll also see a fair value gap similar to what we saw on dollar. So I'm going to draw this out, and again it's pretty much the same as what I was saying on dollar, so but inverted. I want price to trade into it. I don't really want to see it get filled. I would like to think that price can dip down, offer a nice entry for a long, see a nice setup, for continuation to the upside, with the expectation to run into these highs up here and multi-consequent encroachment. And what you'll find as well is we do have a daily fair value gap residing up here as well, so we can get that drawn out. Yes, we wicked into it once, but you'll see just above that is where, you know, there's only been delivery on the downside, so price should seek to fill that, so we can get that drawn out as a fair value gap on the daily. And it's crazy how much more clear price action becomes after you have displacement, because we were in consolidation and held in consolidation for so long, but you can see how much more comfortable I am explaining and understanding where price is likely to want to draw to. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to be right. We'll have to wait and see how we trade, obviously, but at least now I have some kind of direction. So you can see we spooled higher, trading above, running out all of these beautiful buy stops. And again, if we're going to be closing higher in the week, we want to see Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday create the low. Preferably Monday. I doubt it will do it on Monday. Tuesday, I'm looking to create the low. As it's creating the low, I'm expecting it to be formed in this fair value gap, so I'll have my eyes set very closely on that. And what you'll find is we actually do have a breaker within the mitigation. So the mitigation was here, low, high, higher, low, broke higher, so I'm looking at this level. But then on the lower time frame on the daily, there's a breaker, low, high, lower low, and then price trades higher. So you can see how these PD arrays and data points overlap with each other, and although it doesn't give us an exact price, it's really allowing us to hone in on where price is likely to draw to for us then to start anticipating and looking for setups. So specifically, I'm looking at this last up close candle right here. We can make this orange. I'll make an orange line coming out of it, because that would be the lowest I'd want to see price trade, very lowest. If we go to the 4 hour, you can see that lines up with a bullish order block right here, and again you can see that breaker, low, high, lower low, and then price has only moved higher since. So price should refer back to this level, and I wouldn't be surprised if we saw that happen on Tuesday or Wednesday for a setup to then form. So again, moving into the new week, we'll let Monday trade cleanly. We'll let Monday trade completely, and then Tuesday, Wednesday, I'll then be drawing our attention likely to this level as a potential low of the week. So yeah, that's my understanding of pound. And finally, let's finish up on Euro USD. And I'm going to start on the monthly here as well. So again, what am I looking for? Well, now that we've had displacement and clear displacement, I'm looking for premium arrays that price will want to draw to. We do have a rejection block level right here. Why is this a rejection block level? This is a rejection block level because you see this small wick on top of January's trading. It traded slightly up, and then what happened? Price got rejected away to the downside. So this whole candle, this wick right here, is a rejection block. So I'm looking for price to draw up towards that. Now, understanding rejection blocks took me some time to learn, and even now I don't fully understand what they are, but I do believe this is going to be an example of us witnessing price trade into it. Monthly rejection block, right, cool. And then in terms of where in that block, it would simply be the 50% level, consequent encroachment. But remember, this is the monthly, so price doesn't necessarily need to reach up there, you know, this week or anything. But at least we have, again, a draw on liquidity, which is the main thing. Now this acts as a bullish order block, this last month's high. So we can now look at that high as, well, bullish order block high. So when price trades into it, what do we expect? It to propel price higher. So we'll get that drawn out, and we can write monthly bullish order block. But the fact that we're still trading in this month does mean that, well, no, we've traded through it now, so it is a bull. Okay, yeah, cool. Never mind. Let's go to the weekly. You can see that bullish order block right there. We traded through implied fair value gap I was talking about around here. You can see we've traded through that, closed above this high. It's little things like that, little signatures like this, closing above this high is what I like to see, and tells me that price is likely going to want to continue to the upside. And then we have a swing high up here with a fair value gap just below that monthly rejection block. So in the weekly, we do have this fair value gap that I think price is going to seek to trade into. So let's get that drawn out as weekly fair value gap. And then in terms of a low for next week, I am looking at this wick slightly. What we'll do is I'll drag it out, and then we'll drop down to the lower time frames and see how price is looking at it. So let's just get that delineated like so. But I do like the fact that we've taken out this high, and I do like the fact that we've closed above this high. Let's now go down to the daily, and you'll see again that level I was talking about. And yeah, this wick on the weekly, let me explain why I drew that out. In terms of the low of next week, remember, I want to see an up close week, so that means I want to see the low get created on Monday and Tuesday. Where though? I want to see the low get made within this range. That's what I'm saying. So let's go to the daily, and you can see that we have a nice little fair value gap created between Friday's low, and Wednesday's high. So there's a slight fair value gap that may get very well traded to, and to be honest, price could and is very much allowed to trade lower, and I'll explain why in a short second. But let's just get that. Let's make that make it orange. And I'll get rid of that midpoint because that looks ugly. So I am looking for this to get traded to, but yeah, as I was saying, price may want to trade deeper than that, and we'll probably see the PDA raise for that on the lower time frame. Now there is a breaker down here, low, high, low, low. Price traded higher, came down, touched that breaker high right here, and then what happened? Delivered to the upside. Price shouldn't need to come all the way back down here to this breaker. Why? Because we rebalanced that breaker here. So what I'm looking at now is this up close candle and this high. We've got low, high, lower low, and then price is closed above the upside. So I am watching this high specifically, which is that monthly bullish order block open to get traded to. So definitely paying close attention to that. On the 4 hour, you can see we have a nice breaker here, as in a high before a low, and then we've broken higher. So again, I wouldn't be surprised to see price trade down, potentially fill this liquidity void we've got going on here, and trade into these highs and this order block for us to start seeing a reaction. If we go to the 1 hour, we can get an even closer look. Again, nice fair value gap right there. Breaker, low, high, lower low. So yeah, we'll have to just see where price gets to over the next 2 days. But I am paying close attention to this swing high for potential long into last week's high and that weekly fair value gap I was talking about, just above these relative equal highs up here. So that's going to be everything, guys. I hope this has made sense. Again, typical, I'm going to say let Monday trade. Don't rush it. Let Monday trade. And then Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we can be looking for setups all week. And hopefully it'll be an easy week. I say easy, but like much cleaner than what we've been witnessing. So thanks for watching, guys. And I'll catch you in the next one. Don't forget to smash subscribe. Join the Discord as well. I am active in there. And I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to another video. I hope everybody's doing well, and let's get straight into things. So hopefully you've watched yesterday's weekly review and outlook video where I was explaining everything that I'm expecting for the week. If you haven't watched that, go watch that now and then come back to this video, because I'm not going to be re-explaining everything. So here we have the daily fair value gap that I was anticipating us to get traded into, and you can see that that's exactly what price did today. We traded higher, dipping just above Friday's high into that daily fair value gap. And yeah, it's nice to see that we're going in the direction that we're anticipating. Now moving into the new day, I am, as in Tuesday where we have CPI, I do anticipate us to dig a little bit deeper into the daily fair value gap. I'd like to think that we can run out this hourly swing high right here. I'd like to think that we can get a nice reaction off of that. So moving into the new day, I'm looking at the New York session, so between 2 a.m. and 5 a.m. New York time. I'm looking for price to trade above this buy side liquidity for us to start looking for shorts for the rest of the day. So I am going to be paying close attention to this buy side liquidity, and very specifically as well, I'm looking at this candle here. Now the reason I'm looking at this is because it acts as a breaker now. The reason it's going to act as a breaker is because we've had a shift in market, as in this level here has closed above this swing high. I'll just show you what I mean. So as you can see, we've traded higher, closed above this level, and you can see how we're consolidating now, meaning that the last up close candle before that down move is the breaker block. So if I just drag this out, like so, I'm looking for price to find support on this level. Alexa, stop. Sorry guys. So yeah, I'm looking at this as a breaker block. I'd like to think that price can trade into this, find support, run higher into the buy side liquidity, and then start to distribute to the downside. So if you don't know what I mean, let's just use the path. So I'd expect price to come down into here, trade into that buy side liquidity, and then I'd start hunting for sell stops for the rest of the week, running running into Friday's lows. So yeah, that's going to be everything on dollar. We can now move on to GBP USD, and I'll start on the daily here as well. So just as anticipated, again, we traded lower, nicely running in towards that daily fair value gap. I am going to bring our attention to the 50% level of that, because that very well may get traded to in the new day. What you'll find as well is that 50% level lines up with this swing high. Well, not exactly, but it's close enough, as in price may want to refer to that before we see higher prices on pound. Now, what was interesting today was that pound did have a lot more weaker price action compared to euro, and you'll see that when we get onto euro. But let's go to the 4 hour, and you'll see how pretty much the entire day price just fell, ran out these stops, and now we've just found a little bit of support on top of that fair value gap. So again, just like dollar, moving into the new day, the fact that we took out this low, that's quite significant to me. This low right here. So moving into the new day, I'd like to think that we can create the low inside of that fair value gap, offering us setups for longs for the rest of the day, running up towards Friday's highs, and we can start working towards our target. So if we go to the 1 hour, we can see price even better. You'll see that I've divided it into the days. Now this does look very complicated. If you've watched my backtesting videos before, you'll know what I've got marked out here, but I'll just run it through for any new watchers. So we have the midnight candle delineated in black. We have the London session delineated in orange with the 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. marked out, and then we have the New York session between 7 a.m. and 10 a.m. with the 8:30 and the 9:30 a.m. marked out, and then the London close here. So that's everything here. So we can actually look and see how price delivered. We traded lower during London, we traced back into the London range right for New York, and then we had expansion at 8:30 to the downside with a continuation right into the London close, where we took out these lows and then had a slight retracement off of that. So yeah, pretty nice delivery on the day in general. Moving into the new day, I'd like to think we can reach down into this fair value gap, so I'm going to just draw that out. And the reason I'm looking at this fair value gap specifically is because well, it's at the midpoint of that daily fair value gap. Remember, this line is the midpoint of the daily fair value gap, and yeah, I just think that price is going to want to draw to it. If we look at the total range from this low to this high, it's in a discounted area as well, so it'd be nice and interesting to see if price can reach down into that. In terms of swing projections, like where we may expect the swing to happen, this down close candle right here, I'm going to look at this level. So maybe New York might create a nice swing into this level before distributing down, and then as New York hits with CPI, I'd like to think that we can see some upwards price action running into relative equal highs and aiming for that Friday high that we have targeted. So again, let me use the pathway of what I'm expecting. So I'd expect us to hit this level here. Why? It's a breaker, trade lower, fill in that fair value gap, and then as CPI is hitting, we can start looking for high prices. Now, I in no way suggest you go and trade CPI, guys. So, you know, because we could have a complete opposite kind of price action and prices goes completely lower, which is completely fine, but preferably I'd like to think we can find support in that daily fair value gap which I was talking about, find support in it for us to then trade higher. So yeah, I'm just going to be paying close attention to the midpoint of the daily fair value gap for us then to start hunting for higher prices for the rest of the week. So yeah, that's everything on GBP right now. We'll go to euro, starting on the daily, sorry. Again, if you haven't watched yesterday's video, go and watch it, because we've had some very nice delivery today. So we traded lower, just as anticipated. This is the weekly, cool. Traded lower into this fair value gap. I drew our attention to this in yesterday's video. Look how we closed that. Very beautiful price action right there. Moving into the new day, again, I'd like to think we could see some higher euro, looking at Friday's high as a target for buy side liquidity. Remember that weekly fair value gap up here is my longer term target, but I'd like to start working to this range tomorrow. But if we go down to the 4 hour, we can see our price delivered. So we came lower, ran out these stops. There is a breaker here. These are the last up close candles before the down move that caused this expansion. So we can look at this swing high as a potential draw on price. The same way I'm expecting GBP to trade down into this level before trading higher, we can look at euro to trade down into this level before trading higher. Now, I'm not saying it's going to do that, and it doesn't have to do it, but I'd like to see it. If it does do it, as in if price does continue lower and starts to find support at this level where there is also a fair value gap, so it's very high probability, then I'd like to think that I can go long here. We've got some beautiful relative equal highs up here as a target, and then we can start running into that range. Now we might not hit Friday's high tomorrow, that's fine, but Thursday and Friday we have PPI and some other high impact news on dollar, so it's looking like a very clean week, guys, to say the least. So in terms of euro, moving into the new day, maybe trade a little bit higher, come lower during New York, create the low, and then with CPI I'd like to think that we can aim for these relative equal highs right here. Now again, I'm not saying pip for pip or anything like that, but this is just generally how I'm expecting and would like to see price deliver. Let's say price doesn't do that and we do have expansion to the downside. If price starts disrespecting, as soon as price leaves this grey range, and if you look on the weekly, I'll just show you. On the weekly, that's this wick, right? So if price trades lower than that range, as in we start to leave it and trade deep into this order block, I'd simply get out the charts and not bother trying to figure out and let it do its thing. But other than that, I'd like to think that we can find support and that CPI will drive price to the upside, but we shall see. So that's going to be everything, guys. I hope this was insightful. One thing to take note of, although I do want to see price trade higher before trading lower like that, it doesn't have to do it. And the reason for that is because we have taken out buy stops above this swing high. So on dollar, you can see we have run out a level of stops and we've traded into a daily fair value gap. So price very may well just fall straight out of bed. And what I mean by that is we may just go straight, as in we might start delivering to the downside quite quickly, depending on how we want to deliver. So that's something to consider as well, but we can only wait and see. So hope that all makes sense, guys. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's GBP, baby. Welcome back to the only channel on YouTube calling the markets with this much accuracy. And yeah, if you're new to the channel and you haven't watched any videos before, go to my weekly review for this week and check out yesterday's video as well, just so that you have an idea of where I am in terms of my accuracy this week in terms of the market delivery. But yeah, I'm going to get straight into things. So if you haven't watched yesterday's video or the day before that, then make sure to go check them out, because I'm not going to be re-explaining myself. So let's get straight into things. So here is Tuesday's delivery. We traded nicely into the fair value gap that I brought our attention to. And if you remember on my weekly review on Sunday, I was stating that I'm happy for price to trade into it, but I don't want to see us close above the 50% level of it. So the fact that we have respected that 50% level and pretty much respected the low of it as well, it's really nice for me to see. You can see we wicked right above there, and I'll show you exactly what we actually traded to once we get to the lower time frames. But yeah, it was a pretty solid day, very accurate if you watch yesterday's video, and it's nice to see that we can probably start looking for downside delivery for the rest of the week. So you'll see that I still have this grey imbalance marked out, and the reason for that is because I'm looking for price to start to seek to trade into this and through it on the downside. So that's what I've got this is where I've got my eyes set on moving into Wednesday and into Thursday and Friday. Now Wednesday doesn't have any high impact news on the dollar, GBP does, so that's going to be interesting, but I wouldn't be surprised if we were quite consolidated on Wednesday and then saw more movement on the Thursday and Friday. But yeah, pretty solid day. Let's go down to the 4 hour and you'll see how price traded up, right up, rebalancing with this low right here. We traded into that, and then again look at the volume, respecting that 50% level. This is, you can't get any more precise than that. Look at that, beautiful, turned around, and since then we've just been trading lower, which is nice to see. Now if you did watch my Sunday video, I did say that price may want to draw up into this fair value gap right here, and that is exactly what price did. We traded higher, running out this buy side liquidity, which I brought our attention to also in yesterday's video. I was saying I wanted to see that get swept. We traded above that and we traded into this fair value gap. Now this fair value gap was coupled with this breaker, high, low, higher high, and then we broke into the downside. So price traded up into that breaker, and that's why we're seeing the beautiful reaction we have off of it now. So price is going exactly as we want, which is perfect. And now I'm going to start looking for sell side targets to get traded to. So in terms of moving into the new day, I'm going to be looking for Tuesday's low to get taken out and potentially start trading into these relative equal lows in this imbalance I was talking about. So I definitely have my eyes set on this sell side as a draw on liquidity. And then in terms of the range we've created here, price may want to come back up to this order block. We can drop down to the 15-minute and see if we can identify a breaker. So here we have a breaker. This is the last down close candle before the up move that's caused this large expansion downwards. So I am going to be watching the low of this because this is where the change in the state of delivery happened. As in, once this candle closed below here, price started delivering lower, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if price wanted to if price wants to come back to this level to rebalance it. So I'm going to draw this out as, again, maybe during London or during the Asian session, price may want to return back to there before we see proper expansion lower. But what I'm watching is this candle, this down close candle right here, to continue to push price lower. I do believe this is the high of the week. Preferably it is. If that's the case, then obviously we can start looking for sell stops below here, relative equal lows below here, with a potential reach for our weekly target down here, depending on how volatile we are. But yeah, moving into tomorrow, there isn't any high impact news, but I'd like to think that we can still see some downwards movement. Again, creating the high of the day around here, if it wants to return back to this level, which it very may well do. It very may well do, and that's completely fine. And then I'd start expecting continuation to the downside. So you can see it's kind of just taking its very good time getting down here, no rush whatsoever. Fair value gap here. So again, I wouldn't be surprised if price filled the fair value gap, then came back up, then broke down. You know, it's gonna take its time, but I'm definitely watching this swing low. So definitely have that marked out on your charts, guys. And like I said, this is my target moving into Wednesday. If it doesn't trade into on Wednesday, then Thursday and Friday I'll start targeting that. Let's say price trades through this level aggressively. If we start trading higher aggressively, then we'll simply start looking for these highs to get ran. But I highly doubt that's going to happen, because on the higher time frame we are heavily bearish. So that's what I'm looking to happen. And yeah, hopefully that's going to continue. So let's go on to GBP USD. And I'm going to start on the daily here as well. And again, if you haven't watched yesterday's video, go and watch it. And you'll see price traded down into its fair value gap again beautifully. We overlapped with this wick. So you can see that this range is now rebalanced. More specifically, you can see we traded to the 50% level of that. You can't make this stuff up, guys. Look at that. Traded into that and then came off of it. And we were also trading into a daily breaker, which I did also bring our attention to. So we have a low, a high, a lower low, and then price is delivered to the upside. So I was watching this up close candle right here, and you can see our price traded right into the high of that, giving us a nice reaction off of it. So that's been beautifully delivered. So now I'm expecting to start looking at Friday's swing high from last week to get targeted. So everything's pretty much going to plan, which is nice to see. Got some buy side liquidity right there. Obviously we've got Tuesday's high and Monday's high now to start working our way towards. The lowest I want to see price trade tomorrow is going to be 50% level of the range it's created. So I'm going to get that marked out. That's what we call consequent encroachment. So let's just get that marked out. And I want price to respect that. If price trades any lower than that, then I'll probably get out the charts, and not get out the charts, but I'd be expecting us to dig deeper and trade into this fair value gap. But like I said, ideally that's not what's going to be happening. But yeah, we have consequent encroachment marked out now. So when we drop down to lower time frames, we can see what's the lowest we expect price to trade. Now I'm not saying it has to go down there, but if it does want to start trading lower, this is the lowest I'm going to allow it before, you know, my idea of higher prices changes. So you can see again came lower, turned at that 50% level. If we look at the 25% level, you can kind of eyeball it. 25% level is about there. After daily fair value gap, 25% level is about here, isn't it? And you can see how we turned at that level and have started expanding to the upside, which is great. So we can go to the 1 hour. And again, as we're trading through this level, I'm watching, this is going to act as our breaker. As soon as we trade above there, I'd like to think that this can act as a breaker. I doubt price is going to need to come all the way back down here, so I probably wouldn't worry about that. This 50% level, this order block here, we very may well. So if we drop down to the low time frame, hopefully we can find where the change in the state of delivery was and look at that level a bit like how we're looking at this level on dollar as a potential, you know, drawing point to create a swing before we move lower. So let's just go back to GBP, and I'm looking at this swing high right now, and I'm going to make it orange. Let's just drop down to a lower time frame, and you'll see that that swing high is this up close candle. And the reason I marked this one out is because right here we traded through, change in state of delivery, hunting for buy stops. Yes, this is going to act as a breaker on a higher time frame, but in terms of the range we've created now, I'm looking at this level to get retraded to before we trade higher. You can see we've already traded down into this order block, traded higher, created a wick there. What's this? Engineer liquidity. So there's going to be sell stops below this low. Price may want to come, grab that, and then trade higher, running for these relative equal highs here and here, and again to start working towards our higher targets up here. So that's how I'm looking at price right now. And you guys should definitely mark out everything I have marked out. I'm not saying price has to come down here, because it really doesn't. We could simply expand and just find support on top of the daily and start trading high into relative equal highs. But again, if we're expecting higher prices, we should also expect some kind of manipulation, right? And there's high impact news on pound. So I'm looking for price to come down, create some kind of low, which I'd like to think will happen in this range from this high to this low, where this level is delineated, for us to then hunt for longs into the buy stops. Now, I'm not expecting price to necessarily reach this high tomorrow, but you can see we do have relative equal highs here. So price may want to draw to that for buy side liquidity. Ooh. And then we also have some more highs up there. So there are levels that price is going to seek to trade up to. There's also a fair value gap up there. So we just need to watch how price gets there. And our first target realistically should be here. Yeah, so it's just a matter of waiting. Again, even it's very possible Asia session may even trade down here, or we may consolidate and then London opens, creates a low and trades higher. So yeah, should be interesting to say the least. But that's everything on pound. Very beautiful day. Let's now go to euro to finish. So I'm going to start on the daily on euro. Again, I'm looking at this weekly fair value gap to get targeted. We traded down into a weekly implied fair value gap. This is the implied fair value gap right here, between this low and this open is an implied fair value gap, and you can see our price traded nicely into that. If we drop down to the daily, you'll see we traded down past this fair value gap, rebalancing with this wick completely fine, and then we came off of it just like so. So again, what am I expecting? Well, if we have low prices, the lowest I want to see price go is going to be 50% of this wick, because that should get respected. So we'll get that marked out. And again, it doesn't have to go down there. It's just the lowest I'm allowing price to go before I consider any other, biases. We'll go down to the 4 hour. You can see our price traded back down into that orange range, which is this simple daily fair value gap right here. That's that on the 4 hour. So you can see we wicked down, but look at volume. Guys, pay attention to volume. You can see we wicked down into this breaker. Again, yesterday's video, I brought our attention to these levels. Honestly, if you haven't watched yesterday's video, go watch it. But I brought our attention to these levels, saying price may want to dip down into that. Look at that, beautiful. Tapped it twice, and now we're coming off of it. And look at the volume, staying above that fair value gap. So that's again supportive of higher prices. Drop down to the 1 hour. You can see our price is just slowly making its way out of there. I think euro's a little bit weaker right now, which is not a problem. If we drop down to the 15 minute, we should be able to find the state and change in the state of delivery. Now I don't think, let me see, 5 minute. So I'm looking at this swing high to see price come back to it. So price again creates the low. I'd like to think it can create the low down here for us to then think about longs into buy side liquidity up here and relative equal highs with the expectation to eventually reach up here. So this is this is my weekly target, to be honest, like end of week. I want to be up there, to be honest. But in terms of the next 2 days, I'm looking at these relative equal highs to get targeted. But again, as I was saying before that, price very well may want to come down first, grab some more stops, and then work its way up. Because you can see there's a very high resistance movement up. And I wouldn't be surprised if we want to manipulate, come down, create a Judas swing, maybe during London, and then start looking for longs for the rest of the day. So yeah, today the delivery is going very smoothly. What you can do as well, if you want to be more precise, you can draw this fair value gap out on the 5 minute, and when price trades below that, we know that we should be hunting for longs, and then once we trade through it, we can look for longs from here as well, as in price should find support on top of this to trade higher. But we'll see that later on in the day. But overall, I'm looking for price to draw back into its range and then trade higher for the rest of the week. So yeah, been a really good week so far. Make sure to watch previous videos, smash that subscribe button, join the Discord, I'm active in there, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Oh, one more thing actually, guys, something to take note of. So this is the British pound futures, right? You'll see that the British pound futures has made a higher high here. So you see that happened after CPI today. So GBP came down, made a higher high, and it's been trading higher since, right? when we look at GBP USD, you'll see that GBP USD made a lower low. Let me say that again. GBP made a higher low, sorry, here, and traded higher, and GBP USD made a lower low here. So the strength we're seeing in GBP futures is more significant, right? And it's showing strength on pound side. So as this was happening, as this low was forming here, we should have known, and we could have looked at GBP USD like, okay, well, the futures is showing a willingness to want to go higher, so that's supportive of higher prices, and that would have set us up for a nice long position. Fair value gap comes down into there, and then we could have been long, running up to where we are at now, closing in this fair value gap completely, like so. So yeah, very interesting, something to study. Hope you found this insightful, guys, and I'll catch you tomorrow. Peace. What's going on, guys? It's GBP baby. Welcome back to the only channel on YouTube giving you this much precision in the markets every single day. Now I'm going to get straight into things. For all you new viewers, like if you're new to the channel, make sure you go and watch yesterday's video or the day before that's video or the day before that's video, because you'll be able to see the kind of precision elements that I've been applying using ICT concepts. And yeah, this week's going absolutely swimmingly. So you know what? Let's give ourselves a round of applause, because I haven't seen precision like this in a while. And let's get straight into things. So we've got the daily dollar, and you can see this is delivery on dollar. We traded up just below the 50% level of Tuesday's wick, up to the quarter level, and then you can see we traded lower just as anticipated, running out Tuesday's low as well, also just as anticipated. So you can see that we're starting to push now into this volume imbalance that I have my eye set on. And moving into the new day, as in into Thursday and Friday, I do want to see continued distribution to the downside. So I'd like to think that we can start to trade deeper into this range. And I am going to be looking at taking out Monday's low and also trading down into the 50% level of Friday's wick. So I'm going to get this marked out first. This is consequent encroachment. I'm going to be watching how price treats that when we get to that level. And then another thing I want to bring our attention to is going to be this level down here. Ooh. So I am watching this imbalance because I do believe price may want to refer back down to that. So first, obviously, I want to see Monday's low get taken. Then I'd be looking at the midpoint of Friday's wick, and then I'd be looking at this level to get traded to. Obviously, we have this massive weekly fair value gap. Whether price reaches there or not, that's another story. We do have high impact news, so it very well could. But generally speaking, I'm expecting lower prices. And what does that mean? If I'm expecting lower prices, that means I want to see the high get made in London, and I'd like to think that we can distribute to the downside moving throughout the rest of the day. So here's the 4-hour chart. Absolutely beautiful day today. We traded higher up to a level which I brought your attention to in yesterday's video, but I'll speak more on that when we get to the lower time frames. You can see we left that daily fair value gap. You see we've now closed outside of it, which is nice to see. Came down, grabbed those sell stops, and I'd like to think that we can anticipate a continuation to the downside. If we drop down to the 1 hour, you'll see that level. Will we see that level? No, we're not going to see that level on this time frame, but you can see we traded up into this bearish order block right here, turned around on the dime, again breaking market structure right here. As soon as that candle closed below there, we traded back up into the breaker. That's the last down close candle. So right here, I'll just show you more specifically. Traded up into that breaker, and then look what happened. Price traded away. Yes, we traded into it twice, but price eventually delivered down, grabbed those sell stops, and we're just kind of rebounding off of that right now. So very beautiful price action. We can go to the 15-minute, and what you'll find is this low here. This is the breaker on the upside, because we have a high, a low, a higher high, and then price broke to the downside. And I was saying watch this level, as price is going to want to return to it. If you haven't seen yesterday's video, go and watch it, but I was calling out this exact level, and look at that. You can't get more precise than that. Obviously it's not perfection, but I did say, and I did state in yesterday's video, price is likely going to want to turn at that point. Exactly what we saw. It ran lower very beautifully, came back into the range, and then continued to make its way into that sell side liquidity before grabbing those sell stops. So now that those sell stops are grabbed, we can anticipate some kind of retracement, as in pull back into the range. But where specifically? Well, we can go up to the higher time frame now. I am going to go to the 4 hour, and yeah, I do want to see a continuation to the downside, to be honest. I do believe price is going to want to push lower. Moving into the new day, let's take a look. I'll go into the 1 hour. So I am looking at this bearish order block now. This bearish order block should continue to provide resistance I would like to think that if we do manage to trade back up to there, we will get the resistance we need to continue to push price lower. If we go down to the 15 minute, we should be able to better see. We've got a nice consolidation right here. So as far as I'm concerned, price should struggle. If price is going to go any higher than this, it should struggle to get through here. As in, I don't really want to see price trade through any of this. If it does, so let's say we do trade through it, that means that I've got to start looking at this daily fair value gap again and start thinking about, you know, trading quite aggressively higher. But other than that, I think price should continue to behave pretty weak and run down towards that consequent encroachment I was talking about on the daily, with a potential reach for that imbalance. Now there is technically a breaker as well. Why? We've got a high, a low, a higher high, and then now we broke to the downside. So I'm looking at this range as well, from this high to this low. Yes, we're currently in that range, but again, preferably I'd like to think that price will continue to respect this range, as in I don't really want to see us come back into this daily fair value gap, and I'd like to think that we can start seeing some more aggressive push into the downside. Furthermore, we do now have sell side liquidity residing below these two lows. So you can see we've got relatively equal lows below here, and obviously all these stops. There's going to be lots of sell stops residing below there. So again, price is going to want to draw down into that. Now depending on how weak we are, we very well could go into the Asian session and literally fall right out of the Asian session, moving lower without us necessarily doing a sweep higher. What do I mean by that? Well, if we look at Wednesday's day, so let me just mark out midnight from here until the end of the day, which is going to be here. So you'll see we sweeped higher, right? We traded higher first, and then we came to the downside, and now we're coming back to equilibrium. Classic price action. What I'm saying is that depending on how weak dollar is, price may not need to do this initial sweep higher, because I saw this level and anticipated price to sweep up to that. In this case, in this circumstance, price doesn't necessarily need to do that, because I'd like to think that we can just continue lower and continue falling, running towards these lows from Friday. Now, my ultimate goal is Friday's low. I would like to think that we can get there. That's another reason I'd like to think that in the new day, price will just continue to, drop lower aggressively and start running towards the sell stop. So definitely got my eyes on lower prices. And like I said, I'm not really anticipating much of a sweep. You can see kind of relative equal highs forming. Let me see on the 1 hour again. But generally speaking, I will be watching this order block, this bearish order block, to provide the resistance we need. So we can trade into that. So long as we continue to respect this bearish order block, I'm happy to be short on dollar. Another thing as well, we do have an imbalance here. We can drag those imbalances out, and you can see how price treats these levels. So again, price may want to wick up there into this order block and trade lower. But should be all good. Let's go to GBP USD. We're going to go on the daily. Hopefully you watched yesterday's video. I keep saying this. We traded down into that orange level that I drew our attention to in yesterday's video. If we look at the 50% level, hit that quarter level, I'm expecting now us to trade up into Tuesday's highs. You can see there's buy side liquidity up there, and start running up towards this range as well. Let's go to the 4 hour, and you'll see our price. What day are we on? Where's Wednesday? Here's Wednesday. We came down into that orange level on the low time frames. I'll show you what level that is. Beautifully came off, grabbed those buy stops just as anticipated. And remember, we still haven't filled in this fair value gap, so I'm anticipating price to want to start to push higher and run higher. I'm looking at this bearish order block as a potential draw on liquidity as well, moving into the new day. So that should be interesting to say the least. If we go to the 1 hour, you'll see this buy side liquidity that we just about tagged it again. So we're just kind of testing that level right now, and moving into the new day again. Well, before we get to that, this is the orange level I was talking about. We found support on that just as anticipated, and we traded higher, right? So now I'm simply going to be looking at this level. I want to be, preferably this level will continue to provide the support price needs, because I don't really want to see price come back down here, especially not below this big bullish order block we have here on the 1 hour. So I'm looking at this bullish order block to continue to provide the support that we're seeing. And again, like I said, price may not need to do that London sweep. We may not need to do the Judas swing. We may just continue to trade higher as soon as we open, running for the buy stops. And like I said, there's a nice big fair value gap right here that price may want to draw to early on in the day. So that's something to consider moving into the new day. And then finally, let's finish on euro. This is a quick video, guys. We'll go on the daily, and you can see this is Wednesday. Beautiful day on euro, guys. Absolutely gorgeous. We traded lower, didn't quite hit that orange level, but the fact that we didn't trade into it shows heavy bullishness. Traded higher and closed above yesterday's high, again all pointing towards higher prices. took out Monday's high, and now we're starting to trade into this range just as anticipated. So we've just about hit consequent encroachment. So our next target should be the buy side liquidity above there. So I think we can continue to expect bullish movements on euros specifically. In terms of low off day tomorrow, the lowest I want to see trade, the lowest I'm allowing price to trade is going to be 50% level of Tuesday's trading. So if we drop down to the 4 hour, this is the very lowest I expect trade price to go, and it very well could, because if on the 4 hour chart we can actually identify the breaker. We have a low, we have a high, we have a lower low at that orange level I was talking about, and then you can see price is traded higher. So I'm looking at this last up close candle to provide support. So if price wants to come down to that, beautiful opportunity for buyers. Implied fair value gap there as well, where here this is an implied fair value gap. Price we want to dip into that, we can look for buyers there with an expectation to run for relative equal highs above let me just get this marked out, above this high and this high, with a potential reach up there. Now price doesn't need to dip this deeply in, and I'm saying that because of the way we traded and closed above this order block. So depending on the time of day, definitely time of day, we very well could only trade down to this 50% level here, and that would be enough for us to then move higher. So I am expecting some kind of sweep below this Wednesday low, below this 4 hour candle low, sorry. But it doesn't need to come all the way down here, preferably not, and that would show bullish price action that can set us up for a nice run up to that buy side liquidity. Let's go to the 1 hour real quick. You can see that midpoint lines up with this bullish order block, even more reason as to why we should be watching that level. In fact, we can probably get rid of these levels here and just watch this black level, to be honest, as a low of the day or to be touched during Asia. And like I said, we may just open and start trading higher straight away depending on how bullish price wants to be. So I'm going to get rid of this because we've already traded through this level. Now our next target is this buy side liquidity. But first, like I said, price is going to want to come lower first to trade higher. So yeah, this week is going absolutely brilliantly. Make sure to smash subscribe, watch the previous day's videos, and you'll see how precise we'd be in this week, guys. And don't forget to join the Discord. So that's going to be everything, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace. Well, what's going on, guys? It's GBP, baby. Welcome back to another video. And yeah, what an interesting day we've had today. Not precisely as we outlined yesterday, but we simply keep calm and adapt. And we're going to start on the weekly just to get an idea of where price may be drawing to after the very, very expansive day we had on Thursday. So I'm going to start by marking out a implied fair value gap from the buy side of the weekly chart, which is here. And I'm going to drag that through because you can see that price is now trading quite aggressively through this. Now, this isn't a typical fair value gap. For example, this isn't a fair value gap that you see here. This is an implied fair value gap, which ICT's only mentioned like once or twice. And it's just showing that price is only delivered up here on the upside because we only have this upside volume within this range, and there's two wicks beside it that have like failed to fill it in. I don't know the exact like mechanics of the implied fair value gap, but after studying and backtesting, I'm aware that this has relevance. So once we traded through this down last week, this implied fair value gap would have been expected to act as a resistance, but you can see we've traded right through it and violated the 50% level, which is significant because it means that tomorrow we will probably likely want to continue to trade higher and dig deeper into filling this range. So that's just something to consider. When we drop down to the lower time frames, you'll be able to see more detail of what I mean by that. So here's that implied fair value gap I was talking about on the weekly. And you can see how price just aggressively traded through, running out Tuesday's high, trading through this imbalance as well. When you see price trading through imbalances like volume imbalances like this, when there's literal gaps in the market delivery, when price trades through it the way we saw it do today, it suggests an extreme bullishness because these should be providing resistance and it's failing to do that. So price is obviously wanting to go up. You can see we traded through that. And now I've simply got my eyes set on this bearish order block here. Now I'm looking at all three up close candles before the down move. So I'm going to be looking at the low first to get traded to as a target. And then if we do manage to trade through that comfortably, it'll then simply be the opening of this order block from this candle to here, and then you can see we deliver to the downside. So mainly I'm watching this level. I'd like to see how price reacts once we get there. If we get a reversal, then it's likely we'll pull back into our range to finish off Friday, and again probably consolidate in this implied inversion fair value gap that's highlighted in purple. So moving into the new day, I'm expecting us to trade higher, reach this bearish order block, and then this should pull us back towards this implied fair value gap. Let's go down to the 4 hour, and you'll see again how price ran up into this gap, took out highs over here. That's significant as well. And you'll see how that imbalance on the daily, the blue one I highlighted, lines up nicely with this bearish order block. Now that we've traded through it on the upside, we should expect this to provide resistance. So we can watch in the new day, if price does come down to this blue bearish order block, it should act as a bullish order block. So we can look to be potentially getting longs from that position, or just finding resistance in general, because price is suggesting that it wants to push deeper into, remember, that daily bearish order block. So that's what I'm looking for tomorrow. Honestly, after seeing today, very low probability, so definitely not going to be risking much. You'll see there's also a fair value gap resting just below that daily level that's marked out in black. Fair value gap right here, so price may seek to fill that in the new day, especially with high impact news. And there's also a bearish order block there on the hourly as well. So it'd be nice to see if price can just continue higher. We might even make the high of the day early and then have a down day, as in price may retrace and start pulling back into this range. But like I said, after today, definitely just be more cautious, because it seems like they're doing some craziness right now. Let's go over to GBP USD, and we'll start there on the weekly as well. Obviously you can see how we've now treated this wick as a rejection block and traded aggressively lower. So what are we running towards? Well, we simply have to look to the last down close candle, which is here, bullish order block. So again, if dollar does manage to trade higher, then we can anticipate GBP to attempt to try and trade down into this bullish order block. We'll now go to the daily, and you'll see our price just been making its way down all day. Here's yesterday, we traded higher, failing to take out Tuesday's high, and then aggressively trading lower, running out Tuesday's low. Again, implied fair value gap right here. This is the exact same format as what I showed you on the weekly on dollar. Definitely something to study, guys. So if you do some back testing, you'll be able to identify these and see what I mean. But implied fair value gap right here, so price may seek to go down here. But ideally, I definitely want to see this week's low get taken out. So I'm going to put sell side liquidity below there, as I do believe price is going to seek to go below that. And it'll be nice to see if we can reach that fair value gap, which is lined up with that bullish order block on the weekly. So although we've had a day which wasn't necessarily anticipated, we can still easily lay out and understand where price is likely drawing to, and we need to remember that and simply just adjust to the conditions. If we go to the 1 hour, again, you can see a bullish order block lined up nicely with that daily time frame order block. So yeah, it should be interesting to say the least. We'll finish on euro. We'll start on the weekly here. And again, crazy expansion to the downside after trading to the 50% level off this wick. Something to take note of. I'll show you, slightly wicked above that. And then we traded to the 50% level. Oh, this is the weekly. Yep. Okay, so we traded to the 50% level, off last week's wick. Just more hawked above it. And now you can see we reacted by trading lower. So where are we expecting euro to reach for? Again, we need to identify some kind of imbalance or bullish order block for it to trade into. So I am looking at this fair value gap right here, slightly implied. Again, it's hard to explain, but there's only delivery on the upside here. So I'm looking at this as a fair value gap. So price may want to get down there depending on how weak euro is. If we go to the daily, you'll see that lines up with the daily bullish order block. So now we've got two PD arrays on two different time frames matching each other. We have a fair value gap on the weekly lining up with a bullish order block. So this should provide nice support for euro as it trades down into that. Once we go to the 4 hour, you'll see some beautiful swing lows down here that are likely going to get targeted for sell stops, and then a nice fair value gap within that weekly fair value gap and within the order block on the daily. So again, when you see like overlappings like this, it's very high probability, so it'll be interesting to see if price can manage to dip its toes inside of that tomorrow. Let's go to the daily one more time. In terms of the highest I'd expect price to trade tomorrow, I doubt it's going to want to rebalance with this level. If we go to the 4 hour, let's take a look. Technically, this is a breaker because we do have a high, a low, a high, and then price broke to the downside. So depending on if we do get any kind of retracements, which we probably won't, looking at how aggressive we're moving. If it does retrace, this is the highest I'd expect price to trade before we see any resistance. But it's not looking like price is going to offer any kind of retracement right now, purely just because of how heavily bearish it is and how quick we can see it's running towards these sell stops here and potentially down here as well. So yeah, that's going to be everything, guys. Hope you found this insightful. Don't forget to join the Discord. I'll be back on Sunday with another weekly review, and yeah, don't forget to smash subscribe. Peace.